Okay, so here comes the second special situation. Uh, Look, like I said before, I mean, they happen a lot in upper level math, and it feels great when you can identify it. This one might feel a little bit more complicated. So, what I'm going to show you is when you have a binomial square, like, a plus b squared, or if you have an a minus b squared. Do you remember how you can do a little shortcut to that, and you can see, like, when you expand it, you get these middle terms, and the middle terms aren't going to zero, unlike the one up above when you had a negative and a positive, like a minus ab and a plus ab. Those went to zero. These have the same signs, so you get two, like twice. Let me see if I can slide that out of the way. You get two ab for a middle term. So what we want to look for is a perfect square at the beginning, the first term, and a perfect square at the end. Okay, so that's our first two checks, is to see if the first and last terms are perfect squares. And then, is the middle twice the first one times the second one multiplied together, the square root of the first one and the square root of the second one multiplied together, and twice that. Okay, so let's just look at one and see if we can figure this out. So what I do first is I check to see if I can take the square root of 4j squared. Oh, sure enough, I get 2j, right? And this is partly what is good about reviewing this, is like, how do you take the square root of some, expression like that? So I hope this is making sense. I hope it's not too difficult. The square root of 16 is definitely 4. Okay, so check mark, check mark. Now we want to see if the middle term is 2 times the first and the last multiplied together. I know that's kind of off the screen. Let me see if I can slide that over. We want to see if the middle term is 2 times the product of the square root of the first and the last. Okay, well, what we're saying is, if we multiply these two together, so 2j times 4, okay, yeah, that gives us 8j. But that's the square root of the first and the square root of the last multiplied together. But now we got to double that. So double it. So double 8j. And oh geez, why did I put a y there? My pen just went crazy. 8j. So what do we get when we double 8j? We get 16j, right? So they're trying to trick us here. This is not a perfect square trinomial, so we don't factor it. Okay, that's what you do on the homework today if you run into one of these. So we got to do the check first before we can apply the rule. All right. So I don't know if I've even shown you what the rule is, right? So we're gonna look at that here in just a second. So if you can identify that you have a perfect square trinomial, you're going to factor it like this. It's going to be a minus b squared, if you see a negative sign right there, and it's going to be a plus b squared if you see a plus sign right here. So this second one works, and let me show you why. So we take the square root of 36h squared, that's 6h, and you take the square root of 1, well, yeah, that's definitely 1. Now if we multiply those two together, 6h times 1, I know that's ridiculous to say, but you multiply anything by 1, you get the same thing, right? Now we double, so let's double it. Double. I'm going to write a little different right now, so a little different than I did up above. And I get 12h, right? Oh, look at that. It's the middle term. So you're going to be doing this in your head, right? You're like, well, that's a lot of work. Well, you wouldn't write all this down. You would just do it in your head if you are an advanced math student. And you say, okay, well, now that I got that, here's what I do next. I go 6h. I put the 1 after a little bit of space. Got to leave a little space right here. Why are we leaving space? Because we're going to take the same sign that's right there. So I go 6h minus 1, and I square it. Because if I was to expand this, if I was to multiply this out, I would get what I had right back here, 36h squared minus 12h plus 1. And the reason is, like, as I showed you right up here, that's how you expand it, right? When you expand something like this, you'd have two of them right next to each other would be over here because you got a negative sign. And the middle term, you're going to get two middle terms. So that's why it's twice the first one times the last one's square root, of course. Man, I hope I'm making this clear. This one, if you get this pattern down, it's super easy. Now, we do have a lot more of these than we did on the other one. So I think there's like 11 of these guys, making a total of 18. So do problems 8 through 18 right now. Good luck with the homework.